Hey, this is Mike Barnes, the financial first responder. Hey, today I'm going to be talking to you about 4 things that you need to focus on when you think about retirement. Matter of fact, the financial positioning system is explained with the 4 pillars you must master if you're going to retire. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, the first thing that we talk about and you need to know is you need to think about how much you're saving. So we're talking about the accumulation period. And what we need to ask ourselves is whether you're a police officer, a traveling nurse, or Army veteran. If you're a police officer and you see right here your current age is 30 and you're going to target your retirement at 55, you have literally 25 years to accumulate some form of wealth. If you're a traveling nurse and you're age 40 and you're going to retire at 62, you have 22 years to accumulate some form of wealth. And if you're an Army veteran, Marine Corps, Air Force, Navy, you're 45 years of age, let's say you even Coast Guard or Space Force, you're 45 years of age and you're going to work till 67 because you started in the military a little later in life, you're going to need about 22 years. Most retirement is about 20, but let's say you go 22 years. That gives you time to accumulate in that TSP or whatever savings plan you're in. So with that said, we really want to look at how this evolved over time. Now, you'll notice that the evolution of the United States retirement accounts started something like this. In 1875, the first private pension was created. In 1935, Social Security was established. And in 1974, ERISA created IRAs and added pension protection. You see, in 1978, Congress actually agreed to start 401ks. And then in 1997, Roth IRAs were introduced. In 2001, Roth 401ks was created. And then in 2022, Roth employer 401ks were created. So I'm saying all this to say that depending on your accumulation period, you need to understand the narrow window that you have to retire. So what do I mean by that? Well, you're saying, Mike Barnes, financial first responder, let's say my accumulation period. How long do I have? Remember, the police officer said he's age 30. He's going to retire at age 55, so he's got 25 years. The traveling nurse is age 40. She's going to work till 62. She has 22 years. And then the Army vet or veteran in general is 45, and he's going to work till 67, which is 22 years. Now, I know most organizations, unless you get a waiver, you're not working till 67. So let me clear that up. Most of the time, your actual mandatory retirement date is actually 60. So I'm gonna clear that up for those naysayers like, oh, we can't retire at 67. So I'm just letting you know that up front, right? Now, what we also look at, now that we're talking about accumulating the money, we have to see what affects that accumulation. Expected rate of inflation. Because how many of us know that when they were growing up, food was cheaper, transportation was cheaper, and healthcare, including education, was cheaper, right? So in this slide, we're saying that the expected annual inflation rate is 3.5% for food. So in other words, we're saying that the food prices are going to go up. We know that eggs went up a lot this year. Transportation. Funny story. I go to renew my tags, and in my state, they charge an extra $135 per registration year just because I drive an electric vehicle. Now, if that's not inflation, I don't know what else is. I live in the state of Maryland, and they said because the Bay Bridge fell down, they enacted that fee. I don't know if that's true. Maybe it's just them saying, hey, we're going to charge more money. They looked at the weight of my vehicle, and they looked at how much you actually should pay. Now, healthcare. We know that healthcare goes up as we get older. Why? Because it just does. A treatment back in the 70s from a doctor is a lot less than when it was in the 80s or 90s or 2000s. And now we're in 2025, about to be in 2026, right? So we know that healthcare prices are going to go up as we get older. It's called inflation, people. We then look at this chart here, and this chart kind of explains everything that I just said. Now, I remember when I was driving and I was 16, 15 years old. I remember when gas prices were, let's say 59 cents, 59, 69, 79 cents a gallon, right? When's the last time you seen that? Prices are, depending on what part of the country you're in, could be as little as $3 and a half to, if you're on the West Coast, maybe close to $10 or maybe $11, depending on what type of petrol or diesel or gas you actually use. We know that the cost of cars have went up. We know that the cost of a house has went up. Now, for some of you young people, you probably don't know this, but your parents can tell you their house probably cost them $70,000. That same house would cost them $300,000 or $400,000 today, right? So that's inflation. And we know that over time, between wars and oil embargoes and all type of different things that happen in our economy, right? Dealing with the GDP, the gross domestic product, we know that prices go up over time. Inflation, that GDP is a basket of goods, and that price goes up. Now, so when we talk about inflation, let's go back to that paramedic, because I want you to think about it. A lot of you get a COLA, cost of living allowance, right? Well, let's say the cost of living, we're going to make the assumption is 3%. So their annual lifestyle adjustment is 3% on top of what they already made. If you work for Homeland Security as an agent or as a police officer, your healthcare expenses may go up 5 to 7%. Why? Because you have the HSA, health savings account. You have long-term care, which you would have to pay out of pocket or through the job. You have pre-65 medical planning, because a lot of times people don't realize that one of your most expensive things once you retire is medical insurance. Now, even if you're a veteran and you are, you have the ability to go to the VA, your spouse may not. You still have some expenses. And then if your children are on your plan, they stay up till age 24, I believe, if they're in college. So the paramedic nurse or pediatric nurse, excuse me, she is looking, or he is looking at the cost of college. And that's 5 to 6% as far as inflation. And even though you may have your money in a 529, a UGMA, some other form of savings program, you're still going to be hit with that inflation cost when it comes to education. Now, let me be real with you. Life expectancy. This is your projected longevity for each of you. Now, what do I mean? Let's say that you're a female, you're age 70. Your life expectancy is 88. So another 18 years. Now, only God knows how long we're going to be here, but actuaries kind of got it down to a science. Let's say you're a male, my age, 55. They're saying that a male 55 would live to be 83. Now, my goal is to be in my hundreds, but, that's up to God. Now, a female, age 35, her expected life expectancy is 86. So I want you to start thinking about, depending on your health, depending on your eating habits, your weight, financially, how much you save, your life expectancy could be a lot longer than what you expect, which means you could run out of money. Now, I know some of you are saying, oh, well, I got Social Security. Well, the problem with that is that about for every one person working, there's 4 people retiring. I think that was the last statistic I saw. And if you haven't done this yet, pull your Social Security statement at www.social SSA.gov. I think that's it. Um, pull that information because you need to know what you're expected to get depending on when you retire. Now, I have a society of actuaries. Now, a lot of you don't know what an actuary is, so I'm going to explain it real quick. An actuary is responsible for figuring out numbers. They are numbers people. They are crunchers of numbers. And the one thing that I would say to you is because they are crunchers of numbers, they have figured out to a science about how long a person would live. Now, I put this in here so that you could take some time to look at, but I want you to think about as you get older, most of you, your income will go down and your expenses, even though they may be moderate, your healthcare expenses may go up. So we need to sit down with you and explain your options of how to get cash flow so that you have a steady base when you retire. Now, there's a lot of ways to do that. I'm not here to do that today. However, the financial positioning system, which we're kind of talking about, because this is real important, you need to be able to monitor your wealth and your assets and your liabilities and your future goals. That is what the financial positioning system will do. So what I would do is I would go to the life expectancy table again, and I'd say, let's say you're a firefighter, you're age 50, and let's say your expectancy is age 85. You got 35 years before you graduate or go and meet your maker. Let's say you're an ER doc. You're 38 years old. You got to age 90 on average, so you got 30 to 35 years life expectancy that your money's got to last you. Let's say you're a female deputy, age 44. You have age 95 is your life expectancy, give or take 30 to 40 years. Now, I want you to understand something, men. I'm not saying that females should live longer than us, but a lot of times they take care of themselves a lot better than what we do. If you're not going to the doctor at least annually to get a checkup, or you're not going quarterly to check and do your dentistry, or semi-annual to do your dentistry, or you're not going and getting adjustments from chiropractors or getting massages, or you're not doing self-care, more than likely you're not going to be around long because you're not taking care of yourself, right? So I suggest that you start putting yourself first. Take care of yourself. We pay a lot of money for this insurance from our employers or from our business. Use it. Now, this is the big one. Time value of money. Now, we've talked about the rule of 72. We've talked about the fact that in the rule of 72, it tells you the exact point in time your money will compound, double, or grow. And most of you don't realize how much interest you pay out when you pay your credit cards. Let's flip it for a second. How much interest do you actually retain from your investments? These are some things that you really need to get a handle of, because if you're paying more out than you're receiving in, that's a problem. So if we look at your investment value, the higher your interest rate is, the faster it compounds. You'll notice that over the years in the slope. Now, let me give you an example. In the time value of money, we have to look at why starting early wins. So let's say you're a correctional officer. Shout out to the people that work in the state prison system and the people that work for BOP and some of these other correctional systems on the federal side. Let's say that you, sir or ma'am, save $300 a month at 7% for 30 years. You'd have $365,000 saved just in what you put in. Now, let's say that you're an ICU nurse and you, for some reason, started a little later, 15 years later. You put the same $300 in at 7%, but it's 15 years. You only have $89,000 saved. And let's say that you're a Marine, Semper Fi, and you got a lump sum of $100,000 and you drop that in and you got 5% and it sat there for 20 years. You would still have less than the correctional officer. You would come in at around $265,000 at 5%. So I want you to start thinking about, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, right? And I want you to think about the earlier you get started, the better it is. But wait, there's more. Let's say that you don't start early. Now we got to play catch up. And so your advisor, your financial planner, or the financial first responder needs to sit down with you and go through the numbers with you. That is why I keep talking about the financial positioning system, because you need some form of accountability outside of a human, outside of yourself. You need something that is a structured tool that can help you get where you want to be. Now, look, we've talked a few minutes. In conclusion, I am highly suggesting that you click this link or copy and paste it in the toolbar. Go and look at the financial positioning system, or go to my YouTube and watch some of the other videos that we talk about that. And I want you to start thinking about where you want to be when you retire. However much time you have that till you retire. But then however much time you have from the time you retire to the time you expire, you die, or you graduate, or God calls everybody home, that's what we really need to worry about. Do you have enough cash flow? Do you have things in place that will take care of you when your income gets lower and your expenses get higher? Because everybody always tells me, oh, I'm going to pay my house off and I'm going to go and buy a brand new car and I'm not going to have any expenses. But yes, you are. You got taxes, you got insurance, you got your health care bill. And for some of you, y'all are in the sandwich generation where you're taking care of your children and your parents. And trust me, it is not an easy task to do that. So look, this is Mike Barnes, a financial first responder. Click the link below, put it in the toolbar. Let's talk. Let's see how we can help you. And let's definitely take the time to think about where we want to be when we retire. And in the good words of an unknown person, I'd rather talk to you than talk about you. I don't know who said that, but it sounds good. Look, this is Mike Barnes, the financial first responder. Click that link, DM me. Let's get started. God bless.